Okay, we are live. Good evening. I am attorney Vincent Davis, and this is The Secret, How to Fight CPS and Win. I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Darren Guai. How are you, Darren?
I'm excellent, Mr. Davis. I'm excellent. Thank you for asking.
Good, good. And we are also joined by a special guest, Miss Amanda. Miss Amanda, how are you?
I'm holding in there. Thank you.
Good. Where are you calling in from?
I am from Southwest Ohio area.
Okay. Ohio.
Oh,
You anywhere near Cleveland?
No, I'm down towards Indiana and Kentucky area.
Okay. So what's going on with you and CPS in West Ohio?
Backstory, I have a 15-year-old child who started having mental illness around the time COVID happened. Has been hospitalized 3 different times for attempted suicide and ideation. My child was removed after I had to call the police because my child grabbed a metal baseball bat and threatened to use it against me and my fiance when we asked for my cell phone back that we were letting them borrow. I told the officer at the time before he arrived that my child had threatened to kill herself, and that I told him that she's also at risk for running away one time before. And instead of calling mental health crisis like they've done for us in the past, he called the county prosecutor and had my child removed.
oh.
That was on April 23rd. Next day, we had the emergency shelter hearing. I'm being charged with neglect because my child had a mattress on the floor, which we had there for good reasons. I have a state mandated reporter from the new program here in Ohio called Ohio Rise. They had been coming to our home on a weekly basis since December of 2022. And they gave us the okay that was okay for us to have a mattress on the floor. And since we were in the middle of a remodel, the way she had a room, it was okayed by them. But that was the concern for an officer enough to have my child removed for emergency removal.
Okay, so that doesn't sound normal to me.
It doesn't.
I'm not an Ohio attorney, but I'd be hard pressed to say that that's not an emergency situation.
Right.
Yeah, when he was asking us, I didn't understand why he was asking me where else my child could go. Any family, relative. And I was like, we don't have anybody. Like, the closest family I have is all the way in Cleveland, and they are moving to New Mexico. They can't take my child. Like, I didn't understand what was going on, so he decided to remove my child at that time.
Who was this, a police officer?
Yes, it was our local police department.
Have you talked to a civil rights lawyer about suing them?
No, and on the police report, because we have home video surveillance.
Hold on. So my question was either yes or no.
No.
Why?
Because I don't know anything. Like, I'm depending on my private attorney to guide me, and I haven't really gotten any guidance. He's been pretty much MIA on me.
Okay. I mean, if that's the case, I mean, you might consider talking to other attorneys.
Other ones, yeah.
Am I specifically, would I be looking for civil rights attorney? Like, what am I looking for then?
Well, first of all, is your child still out of your home?
Yes.
Okay, so the first thing you should do is get an attorney that can represent you to get the child back home. Once you get the child back home, then you need to find a civil rights attorney to bring a lawsuit against the police.
Okay.
Okay. Now, I don't understand. I can't believe that they used a mattress on the floor as a basis to take your child away. There has to be, Amanda, there has to be something you're not telling me.
No. Police report, the paperwork that I got when I showed up for the emergency hearing had what part of the police report in it of the not accurate events that occurred. Because he wrote it in there that my fiance was pinning my child down on the couch, which wasn't what happened on the video surveillance. I even tried to go back to the police officer and say, look, what you have in your police report is not accurate. Here's the evidence. Will you please review it and amend your police report? And he refused. I even gave my attorney that home surveillance video and told him this is not.
Mm.
You gave it to your attorney and he refused to use it?
Yep.
How long has your child been out of your custody?
Since April 23rd of this year. We just had a court hearing on the 20th of June where I had just learned out that I could request that my child be returned to me. And the judge did say that the child can be returned to me, but I have to come back in court in 30 days. I have to have services put in place. And I have to do a case plan, and I have to do parenting education, and I have to do therapy. But we therapy.
Have you had a trial yet, or the opportunity?
No, the prosecutor and my attorney both agreed to drop the charges of neglect and not go to trial.
Well, if they drop the charges of neglect, you don't have to go to trial.
Right.
Are you telling me they dropped the case against you?
Yes. There was unsubstantiated evidence. Even with the CPS agency was going separately after me for physical abuse and neglect, and they were going after my fiance, and they dropped those charges as well. And I have the official letter.
Okay, so hold on a second. If you had a CPS case and they dropped all the charges against you, I mean, at least if you're in California, you get your child back. So there must be something that you don't know or that you're not saying.
I don't know much. There's been almost little to none communication between me and the CPS agency. And like I said, my attorney's been MIA. I have not gotten to know what was in the discovery from my attorney. He even told me he doesn't feel like he got the full discovery. And anytime I email with questions, I get no answers. I'm forced to call and keep calling until I can speak to him, and then I get really nowhere. And even when we attend court hearings, I'm like, you need to say something. You need to represent me. Else, I'm actually the one talking in the courtroom.
Is he a CPS attorney?
He's a juvenile attorney. There was no CPS attorneys that I could find really that would represent us. Most of them were just juvenile, like family court. And this is an attorney that I have used in the past for different issues. And he said, I'll take it. Because I didn't know if he did CPS. His daughter does pretty much CPS cases, but she's the prosecutor.
What county is this?
This is Clinton County.
You know, right now I'm Googling CPS attorney Clinton County. A bunch of people have come up.
Yeah, and I did call a bunch of them, but a lot of them were out of my price range. I'm disabled. And seeing how they did things in the courtroom with the unruly child charges that were pressed against my kid, I was not about to do a court-appointed attorney.
No, I get that. I have no problem with that. Why don't you see if you can spend $100 or so and get a consultation with another attorney to see if your attorney is doing the right thing. Okay. And to inform you, and maybe that attorney can help you get a copy of all the paperwork, so that you can look at it. Because what you're telling me leads me to believe, number one, that there's a great miscarriage of justice going on here and your rights are being violated, which is entirely possible. Or number two, what you're telling me is you don't know everything that's happening, which you kind of also said you don't know what's going on.
There is very little that I know. And the worst thing that I don't understand is I met with the administrator when I filed the disposition report appeal against the allegations. She flat out told me and my fiance they made a mistake and they should have never took my child, and my child should have been returned at the emergency shelter hearing. And I still didn't. That's when I found out I could request my child back.
Yeah, geez, I'm so sorry that you're going through this. You got to get that child back.
Yeah.
Is your attorney the kind of attorney that would talk to me if I called him about your case?
I honestly don't have an answer for that. I have no idea. He was
Well,
supposed to be calling the prosecutor today to get this case plan fixed because it has no clear information for what it is they're expecting us to fix. And
well, see that's just it. If they've dropped the entire case, which you seem to believe, there's no case plan. Now, they may be dropping the case on condition that you participate in the case plan, and in California they call that a 301 contract. So I don't know. It's you don't know enough information to help me give you some ideas
yeah,
on what to talk to your licensed attorney in Ohio about.
yeah, like I said, the only thing that occurred was on our adjudication, which was June 1st. They dropped the neglect charges.
Okay, but if they drop the neglect charges at the adjudication phase, did they keep any charges?
No.
Okay, but okay, now I'm going to talk out of school because I'm not an Ohio lawyer. But in California, if they drop all the charges, they cannot find your child a dependent. So there must have been some language that you knowingly or unknowingly agreed to that makes your child a dependent of the court.
The only thing I can
See, wait, hold on. You see what M. Young says, who's watching on YouTube? If they dismissed your case, you shouldn't have to do a case plan.
That's what I brought up to my attorney, and I didn't answer.
I mean, the only thing
But like I was getting ready to say, the only thing I can think of is the reason they're continuing everything is because at all the hearings, nobody appealed or disagreed with them continuing the temporary custody.
Right, but your situation is much more serious than that, because they can't give you a case plan in your California anyway. They can't give you a case plan unless they found some type of abuse or neglect or risk. Now, sometimes you agree to that unknowingly. Sometimes your attorney may agree with that without telling you. And sometimes they dismiss the case, but on condition that you participate in a case plan. In California, that's called a 301 contract.
What?
One of those three things, if you're in California, would have had to happen. I would bet that when you talk to your attorney, it'll be something very similar, right? But one of those three things. And the first two, you're completely in the dark. Well, you're in the dark out of all three of them, because you don't even know what's going on in your case.
No, I don't.
And that's one of the things. That's one of the things that bothers me about these cases. People call me up and they have no idea about what's going on. And a lot of people, I say to them, well, send me over the paperwork. Let me look at it. What paperwork? Like, what are you talking about, Mr. Davis?
Yeah, exactly.
And then I know there's a big problem.
The only reason I can think that there's a case plan is because the judge ordered that case plan done at the May 11th hearing. And that was even before we had our adjudication.
Yeah, but the way they do it in California, if you win your adjudication and everything's thrown out, the case is over. Literally over, dismissed, and you got to get your kids back. Except for those three scenarios that I just told you. That's why I'm thinking there's something more going on that you're not aware of. And that's the unfortunate part. Now, here's, what you need to do is you need to email your attorney and say, look, I'm lost. You haven't explained things to me. Please explain things to me, right now. I'm paying you money. You owe me a responsibility. Tell me what's going on. That's what you have to say.
Yeah.
And or go talk to another attorney.
I think I'm going to have to talk to another attorney because I've asked my attorney those things before in conversation on the phone when I finally got him on the phone.
Well, I told someone this today. This is only the most important lawsuit you will ever be involved in your entire life. So at some point, this rests on your shoulders too. You got to go get the right attorney, or at least talk to the right attorney if your attorney is not talking to you.
Agreed.
Okay? So you got to do something. You got to take some action. What do you have to say, Mr. G?
Well, the only thing I can see here is the thing about the boyfriend holding the child down. Is maybe we haven't spoken about that so much. Maybe that's the issue that's pending here, because maybe the charges with her were, well, we call it substantiation, because you said with you. But what about the things with the boyfriend holding the child down? Was that part of that dismissal also, or was that something different?
He's not been a part of any of this as far as with the courts. They drug actual violence.
But wait a minute. Wait a minute.
If that's what you're talking about.
Amanda, I need you to listen to what Mr. G said. Okay? You told us, and he's right, that there was an allegation about him holding the kid down on the couch.
Court, yes.
You had evidence that that's not true, but irrespective, they can take jurisdiction over you and your family, your children, by what your boyfriend did. And this is how it goes down, at least here in California. Boyfriend abused the child. Mom didn't intervene in time or let it happen and shouldn't have let it happen. Therefore, we're taking jurisdiction over the child. And then they give you a case plan to do. Now, I'm a little bit concerned because, number one, you don't know any of this. Number two, if you didn't agree to that language, that means your attorney agreed and didn't let you know about it.
Right.
Or number three, you agreed to it, but you didn't realize what was happening in the courtroom, which happens a lot. Or number four, your attorney, I'm also concerned your attorney knew that there's evidence to prove that that's not a true allegation and didn't show the video at court. So that's why I'm concerned for those four reasons. By the way, I want to tell you this. You can't show a video in California in court without getting it transcribed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So you can show up with a video, it won't be admitted. Judge won't even watch it unless it's transcribed. Unfortunately, or fortunately, whatever the case may be, that's the law in California. You might have the same type of rule. And if your attorney didn't get it transcribed, no need in even trying to show the video. But, for all of those people out there who have video and want to use video evidence, there's a website called rev.com, rev.com. And you can send your videos, your audios, whatever, you can upload them to Rev. In less than 24 hours, usually, they will transcribe whatever media you uplifted. Mm-hmm. So you have a transcription in Word or whatever, format you want. PDF, whatever you need. So that's the easy way to get the transcription. A lot of people think, you got to take it to my office, you got to play it back, my secretary's got to transcribe it, or you got to find an official transcriber. No, that's not true. Use Rev.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if you have that video, talk to your attorney, but I would upload that video right now and get a transcription so that you can give the little video and the transcription to the attorney or whoever you need to and say, here you go. Because if you go without the transcript, you're basically filing or handing over nothing. Nothing exists without the transcript in California anyway. But, nothing like being prepared.
Right. Now, to your question before, the only thing that we addressed was when we did meet, my fiance and I met with the administrator at CPS, and they admitted that their investigation was written incorrectly.
Well, that's why you need to go see a civil rights lawyer and sue them.
Okay.
because you're without your children, right?
Yes.
That, unfortunately, I hate to sound like a lawyer, that's a violation of your civil rights and is worth something to you and worth something to your children,
Yep.
right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And so I didn't see this. Do you have visitation at all? Do you have any of that? Do you see them?
Supervised visitation twice a week, back to back, and they're 2 hours long during the summer. And it has to be done at the agency. But there's so much more stuff going on with all of this that has caused a lot of problems.
No,
Yeah, I wish I lived in Ohio near you because I would take your case in a minute.
Because I've been
Right.
special education meetings. I have been blocked from attending my child's psychiatric appointment for foster mother made sure that I was not able to attend those, and even I just recently found out she gave my child medication that was not prescribed to my child.
Oh wow.
Hey,
Yeah.
Amanda, what you need to do is you need to make a list of 25 relatives and friends that could, I didn't say would, could take your child instead of the foster parent. That person can live anywhere in the world, anywhere in your state, anywhere in your county. Okay? And give that list to your attorney to turn over to CPS and demand that your child be placed in one of those homes. Okay?
Okay.
By the way, that's a little strategy that I use because it gets the kid presumably into a friendly caretaking place where they don't play games with you. You get all your visits, you get to go to all the doctor's appointments, stuff like that. And it also forces CPS to make a decision to place the child with a relative or return the child to you. And when it really comes down to it, if they're talking about placing the child in another country or in another state, they'd rather place the child with you than to place the child outside the state. Tell you a quick true story happened in a not in LA, but it happened in a county down here in Southern California. We were probably 3 hearings into the case, and I had been trying to get the children placed with the maternal grandfather and grandmother. They were both doctors. Well, one was a heart surgeon, one was a dentist who lived in, I think, Venezuela. Okay. They had the first CPS said, we're not going to give them to them because they live in another country. And I reminded the judge and the CPS attorney that it doesn't matter where they live. You know, Venezuela, if it was Venezuela, is part of what's called the Hague Convention, an international treaty where we can place children outside of the United States. So that shouldn't be a problem. But the grandfather said on his own, because he's literally a world famous cardiologist. He says, "Oh, I'm just going to fly up to the Southern California area in this county, and I'm going to get a house." Like, how many people can do that? He flies here with his wife. They lease a house, a 4-bedroom house, big enough to take all of the kids, because I have like 3 or 4 kids, and now what do you have to say? Why won't you give me the kids? I'm not in Venezuela anymore. So we're at a hearing, a court hearing, and the social worker's attorney says something really like off the wall. Says we can't give them these kids because they're illegal aliens. They're not here legally. What they didn't know is that the grandfather and his wife had special visas from the American government to come here whenever they want and work, because they were, especially the grandfather, he performed surgeries on government officials and in army, high-ranking army officers who had heart issues. He was literally a world famous heart surgeon. So I showed the paperwork to the judge, and I said, and besides, the law actually says in California, you can be an illegal alien and get custody of the children.
Yeah.
Right? So that's kind of prejudicial. But do you know that in the end, they gave the kids back to my client instead of having to deal with placing these kids with the grandparents, who, by the way, had plans on going back to Venezuela with the kids once they got the kids here. If their plan was, if they got the kids and they gave my client 6 months to get the kids back, if my client, didn't do what she was supposed to do, they were going to take the kids back to Venezuela. And I doubt CPS could have stopped them, because they can move back there. They're part of the Hague Convention. So instead of doing all that, and it was over the CPS's objection, now that I think about it, the judge placed the kids with my client. And they didn't want that either. But it was better than possibly losing the kids, the money tickets, to another county, another state, another country. Because federal money and all of these things, it follows the kids. That's why a lot of social workers, in my opinion, tell you, oh, we can't place your kids who are in Ohio. We can't place them in California. Ohio wants their money. They don't want California to get it.
No.
Vice versa.
Yeah.
Okay. So, unfortunately, like everything in our country, economics affects everything. It even affects CPS cases and where kids are placed. But my strategy is to you 25 names of people that are related to the kids or not related, they're family friends, that could, not would, could take the children and make the social worker go investigate them. In California, there's a section called WIC 309 where they actually have to perform an investigation to see if the children should be placed with a relative. I just did a case in San Francisco where the social workers didn't want to release the kids from foster care, or not kids, but kid. It's one child. And they were finally forced to, in my opinion, above, they went kicking and screaming. They finally placed the kid with a relative, a blood relative. So, sometimes you have to force these things to happen. And you should do that because your kids are going to be better off. You're going to be better off if the kids are placed with a friendly relative.
Agreed.
Right?
Yeah.
You're already telling me about crap you're going through with the foster parent, how she's purposely doing things to keep you away from the kids.
Right.
And I'll tell you something else. I've been doing this a long time, and I've always suspected this once in a while. But I was just on a case in another part of California where I was presented some evidence that showed that the foster mother was influencing the child against the family. Influencing the child. Now, that's not the foster mother's job, but then I receive some evidence. It's not very strong evidence, but some evidence that seems to implicate the social worker telling the foster mother what to do. Now, you wonder why social workers want kids with foster parents. Because the social worker can truly control the case. Truly.
Yep.
But if you get some friendly relative who likes the parent or likes you or the father or whatever, guess what? Social worker can't control the case as easily. As easily. So, of course, none of this is ever brought to the judge's attention. Right? Judge thinks foster placement, oh, those are wonderful people. They're here saving the little kiddies from the abusing mother and father.
All right. I felt like today I got punished by the foster mom because she didn't even bring my child to visitation.
You should file a complaint.
Mm-hmm.
I tell people to file complaints all the time. You have one of those cases where I'd file a complaint. File a complaint with the Department of Health and Human Services in Washington, D.C. Just go on their website. You can file a complaint about your foster parent and about your social worker. You can go to your local U.S. Department of Justice. Your office will have a civil rights division.
Okay.
File the same complaint. And I don't know if Ohio is state run or county run, but go to the state, capital, go online and file a complaint. Because if Ohio is anything like California, these are really they're county administered cases, but they're an, they're accountable to the state, right? So they're doing these cases in place of the state, and if anything goes wrong, you can still go to the state and make a complaint. What I wouldn't do is I wouldn't go to your local CPS office and make a complaint, because it's just going to be, CYA all over the place, and they're going to point the finger back at you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually aware of a case where the family made a DHHS national complaint. DHHS assigned a social worker. Apparently, I didn't know this, but they have social workers that are nationally known. And this lady had a PhD, and she wrote a report that just reamed the local social worker here in California, and the kid was given back to the family.
Oh, wow.
And I believe, I mean, I haven't read that letter in a long time, read the report. I believe the kid had already been, rights had already been terminated,
Terminated. Yes.
right? And then, they got the kid back because the DHHS said this. This is an interesting thing. I thought when I got to the end of the letter, it was going to say, "We order you to return the kid." And they didn't say that. What they said was, "We find you did so much wrong, blah, 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 that if it stays like this, we're going to recommend that you lose all federal funding." What? Lose all federal funding? No, thank you. They can have the kid back. And that's what happened. They got the kid back. So I suggest you make those same complaints. Now, as I sit here, just talking, it's easier said than done. Believe me. Right? When you sit down to fill out that complaint form, that's going to take you a few hours, maybe many hours. And you'll probably be cursing me in your mind. Like, why did they tell me to do this?
I went on the first thing when they took my child. I went on the child welfare website, and I downloaded my state social caseworker policy manual, and I started reading it.
Isn't that a joke?
It is.
Isn't that a joke? I was trying to show a judge in CPS court that the social worker didn't file any of the policies. Judge wasn't interested in that.
Yeah.
But if you sue them in civil rights court, that becomes a big issue, whether they follow the policies or not.
I can tell you right now, by reading that manual, they did not follow any of the policies that they're supposed to do.
The problem is that may not help you get the child back. It will help you get money when you sue them for civil rights violations. It may not help you get the child back.
Now, I know with me being disabled, I know that isn't there something called, for Americans Disabled Act that I can request with the courts, the records, the recordings, and the transcripts? You
get that anyway, but I can tell you that I have seen there's a lawyer here in California who's one of the gurus at suing social workers. And on several cases, he's filed for civil rights violations. He's also filed a violation for the ADA. I think it's the American with Disabilities Act.
Disabilities Act, yes, correct.
Because a lot of this stuff that CPS workers does violates that law. Nobody thought about bringing it up. Well, he did. He did find that they were violating the ADA Act. And a lot of people don't want to recognize that, but they do.
How do I for that?
I'm sorry? I didn't hear you. You cut out.
With recordings, the records, and the transcripts through the court, how do I file a request for those under the ADA Act?
You don't have to go through the ADA Act. That's what I'm just telling you.
Okay.
You just has the right, since you're the mother, take your government-issued ID, show up at the clerk's office and say, "Hey, I want a copy of everything." They'll give you the form to fill out and try to give you the runaround probably, but you're entitled to it. All right?
Okay.
Let's see. We have a question. How can we find the ICPC they withhold? Oh, you just have to contact the state. You just have to contact the state that did the ICPC and ask them for a copy. Okay? All right. Any last questions you have for me, Amanda?
No, I've been doing all the legwork, so filling out some more papers and doing things isn't gonna kill me at all. Yeah, I literally handed stacks of paperwork and things to my attorney. I am immaculate when it comes to record keeping. I have every bit of medical records from the date of my child's birth up until now when they were
Right.
taken.
Well, good. All right. Do you have any last questions for me?
No, my biggest one was about getting the court records and
Okay. So now you know.
thank you.
You might want to make a three-way request for your records. Ask the court clerk, ask your social worker, and ask your attorney. All of this in writing, of course, via email. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Hey, Amanda, I want to thank you for being on this evening, coming on, sharing your story from West Ohio. We really appreciate it. Hopefully, we've talked about some things that will help other folks who are watching the show. I'd like you to keep us posted. You see my telephone number there on the bottom right-hand corner, 888-888-6582. Call us when things happen or develop, and, maybe we can bring you back on the show to get an update, okay?
Yep.
You are early in your case.
I
If
am.
you do things right now, it's going to save you a lot of grief in the future.
Well,
So do it right now.
so that's the reunification. They keep saying it's a reunification case. And on July 20th, we go back and the judge gets the final say whether I get my kid back or not.
You might want to talk to your attorney about appeals in your state.
I did yesterday when I met with him.
Okay. Very good. Well, thank you, Amanda, and have a good rest of the evening, okay?
Thank you. You too.
Okay, Mr. G.
All right, Mr. D.
What's going on?
There's just so much of this going around lately, huh? Like I've been looking this whole time up at their laws and their rules and her. And I mean, there's just so much of that going on up there where they're just snatching these kids right up. People don't have paperwork. They don't have, reasons why. And I don't know if is it the CPS agents aren't telling them what's really going on? I mean, is it lack of training from them? I mean, what the heck's going on,
It could probably be a million things.
Right.
It's probably different, for every 100 cases.
Right.
And
I mean, that's got to be hard for you, like I hear you keep pounding in, like, well, what about your paperwork? I mean, that was obviously the first thing you asked, like, what did they say? Like, you must hear, you got the people that aren't going to tell you the truth. You got the people that, they're going to try to tell you a story about what they may or may not want you to hear. Your job is to hear. You better be the truth. My brother always said there's two people you don't lie to. Actually, there's three. You don't lie to God, obviously. You don't lie to your doctor, and you don't lie to your lawyer. Because those are the three people that need to hear the truth about everything, no matter what. And
Right.
I think people need to know that too. Like when they're talking to you, stop the BS, because it's just wasting time for you to fight and come up with your strategy and come up with the things you need to do. Don't contact you telling you a quarter of a story. You need the whole story, because you're just wasting time, and that's got to be hard in your profession. Like people just, well, I don't want to tell them that I got caught with pot. Well, you're going to find out eventually. You got caught with pot or meth or whatever. So why BS you about it? Why not just tell the truth right from the gates? That irritates me when I listen to people talk to you. Like, damn well why what happened. You know what's going on. So just tell the guy what's going on so he can help you,
Hey, I wanted to let you know I'm in the process, and I hope it's going to be sooner rather than later. I am going to do a 1-day seminar about 4 to 6 hours on CPS topics, and I'm trying to enlist some other attorneys around the country, as a matter of fact, to join me in this seminar. And we're going to have, presentation, then Q&A, presentation, then Q&A, presentation, then Q&A.
Yeah.
And hopefully everyone can, participate. I don't know if I ever told, if you know this, you probably don't even know this. Maybe 10 years ago, maybe a little less. One of the things that I used to do when I had my radio show, I used to go travel around Southern California, and I would rent out a hotel
Yeah,
conference room, a meeting room, and people would come, sit at tables. I'd do a presentation and spend what seemed like an hour or 2 hours answering questions.
yeah. That's what. It's funny. That's. Do you know the graphic that I sent you? Did you see that, the one with the little bus? And it
Yes,
says Davis Takes America. Well,
right.
that's what I was thinking when I was. That's what I was going to talk to you about. Would be really cool is maybe if it's not on the internet. Imagine you got on a tour. You did a tour of this whole country. You went
Right.
from one coast to the next.
It's funny you should say that because when I was really doing this, I would go, I think it was once a month or twice a month, I would be in a different, location or county here in
Yeah.
Southern California. But now, since COVID and Zoom and things like this streaming software has become affordable and prevalent, and everyone is, hip to it, I'm thinking about doing that, where people can just log on
Right. No, that would be awesome. That
just
would be
like a,
great.
a Zoom meeting, ask questions, listen to presentations. I can have attorneys from all over the country, say, "Hey, man, you're going to be on at 1. Hey, you're going to be on at 2. Hey, you're going to be
Yep.
on at 3." And they just
Even
log on, do their thing, and do some Q&A.
yeah, even a motivational speaker. If you put a motivational speaker in there too, someone, one of those type dudes. That's what I was thinking when I was sending you those emails about that stuff. Like, I think that would be
Right.
great for people to get someone to, get out of the lawyer thing for a moment. But like that's what I was thinking is if you took that tour, you get people from each state, and attorneys with each state that you could stop in and, I mean, you can still do it video wise, do each state, but,
Do you think
maybe
it'd
not.
be more? Do you think it would be effective to do it in person, or
I think it would be amazing. Yeah. I think people are ready for the in-person thing again. I really do. People have had enough of the Zoom. People have had enough of I mean, for real, like it's just getting to be enough, like, eh,
right?
like it's not as real as going into an auditorium and there you are and there's the person and they get to see you and, smell and touch and, like people are losing the senses of what's really going on, like, those are a big appeal in a person and how they become whole, is all of the senses. I think it would be really cool if you, made a plan that you did go in person and, grab a little RV and hop in an RV, man, and just cruise. Even if you rented one for like 2 weeks and then just went across the country, you know what I mean? Just give yourself a little vacation and you stop at the capital of each city and what the hell, man,
That's
I
that's
bet you. I bet you there's enough people out there that are fond of you and that want to. And there's enough people that want answers in each state.
you might be right. I'm gonna give that some thought. I like the Zoom idea, right?
No, I right. Well, I
You don't
get
have to
that.
go any place. You just sit in front of your computer. You know,
Right, but
you
think
know.
about it. You go when you go to the places. Now you can sell T-shirts. You can sell audiobooks. You can sell all these things that people want. They want merchandise. They want stuff when you're in person. So you
I,
got
I have I have a friend who's he's a lawyer and he's giving a seminar for lawyers and he's doing it in person at a hotel for 3 days and the theory is that when you're doing something like that, it's always better in person.
of course, yeah.
Always better in person.
Well, you demand not demand, but you get the attention. Whereas if you're on Zoom, the dog's barking, the people are stopping by. You don't get when you actually take your time and go to an event, you get dressed, you go into the event, people get more out of the event, when they're there. The Zoom thing's allowed, I could just pause you and say, okay, whatever, I'm going to go do this now. And, it's nuts, but hey, you know, whatever works for you.
All right, Mr. G, thank you for being on with me tonight.
Yes, sir.
We're going to see everyone tomorrow night at 7 p.m. I'm actually tomorrow going to be in a trial in another county. I don't know if I'm going to make it back by 7. If I don't make it back by 7, Grace will run a replay. but I'm going to try my best to be back here by 7 to do the show tomorrow night. So everyone, we'll see you tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Thanks for watching, and thank you again, Mr. G.
Yes,
Good
sir.
night.
Good night.